Morning, students. Today we are going to start with a very new topic that is in the third unit of our syllabus, which is phonetics. Now, this is more important because you may not have done this in school. The other lessons which we were doing in grammar and communication, those you may have addressed in school, but this is entirely a new area to focus on. So I would advise you to pay close attention and to understand the lesson which is being explained, and in case you have trouble in understanding, definitely clear your doubts. Now, since this is an absolutely new topic for you, therefore before entering into the syllabus directly, I would like to give you a brief overview of the background. So, phonetics is actually a part of linguistic studies. And by linguistics, we mean the scientific study of language. Now, I'm sure you would agree with me, and that we all know that scientific study in different areas began a long time back, particularly with the Renaissance in England. That was around 6 to 7 centuries ago, in 14th and 15th century. However, when the scientists of the 14th, 15th, and 16th centuries, they were doing research and experimentation, they had never felt the need of studying language, particularly. It was only in the 19th and the 20th century that some of the scholars considered language as the field of scientific study and research. Particularly, I would like to mention the name of a French linguist, Ferdinand de Saussure, who in the 19th century started with the scientific study of language, and of course his contribution had been very influential in shaping modernist thoughts and also in carrying on the study further. So later on, Noam Chomsky is regarded as the father of modern linguistics, in the 20th century continued with Saussure's experimentation and Saussure's observation, and proceeded further with the scientific study of language. Now, this particular field of study called linguistics has various branches. Now, because it became a study of research and experimentation, of scientific delving in, therefore, once the linguists started studying language, they came up with various avenues. They came up with various branches of studying linguistics, dealing with the grammar of language, dealing with the structure of language, dealing with the sound of language, dealing with the use of language in different areas. So you see, the field of language does have several scopes for research and experimentation. So phonetics is one such branch of linguistics that we are going to address in our syllabus. It is a branch of linguistic studies. So linguistics, as I told you, is a scientific study of language. Now we come to phonetics. Now phonetics, it actually deals with the sound of language. Now usually when children are taught in nursery schools, I'm sure you would remember that they start teaching language with nursery rhymes. Why is it so? And why do you think nursery rhymes are always having a rhythmic tone and meter? Because it is the sound of the language that becomes appealing to the children, to the babies, and it is through that sound that they adopt the language. So the branch of language study that is dealing with this sound system of human speech is called phonetics. So phonetics is a branch of linguistics that deals with the sound system of the language. Now, when we talk about the sound system, there are various things that are involved in it. For example, it deals with the production of the sound. That is how we are making the sound. Transmission of the sound. That is how that sound is transmitted from the speaker to the listener. And then reception of the sound. That is how the sound is received by the listener. So it is phonetics that deals with all these areas of the sound system of human speech. Clear? So it deals with the medium of speech, that is how the sound is produced, its production, how it is conveyed to the listener, that is its transmission, and how they are received by the listener, that is its reception. Now, before we go on to the next topic, I would just like to ask a question. That is, what do you think is the fundamental requirement to produce sound? Speech sound. I'm not talking about any sound, but speech sound. That is sounds of human speech. The basic and the most important requirement without which speech sounds cannot be produced. It is air. Air is the basic requirement. Without air, we will not be able to produce any sounds. Without air, the sounds produced cannot be transmitted because air is a medium of transmission and it cannot be received. So the most fundamental and the basic requirement for producing speech sound is air. Now you must be wondering that we are all producing air when we are speaking. But when we are speaking, we are producing different kinds of sounds. How is that happening? We are using the same ingredient, that is air, but the product, that is the sound, is different. For every different word, the sound changes. How is that so? That is because this air is coming from the lungs and finally it is emerging from our mouth. But in this whole journey from the lungs to the mouth, the air is also encountering various other organs. And in this process, in this journey, the air undergoes many changes. So it is this process by which the air is transformed into a speech sound. Because suppose when you are blowing the air, maybe just to blow off the candle, no sound is produced, right? So then sound can be produced only when we are using the vocal cord, that is the voice box, the larynx. If you hold the voice box just near the throat with your fingers when you are speaking, you will understand that it is vibrating. So when the air passes through the voice box and it makes the voice box vibrate, sound is produced. Now that sound is transformed with the help of various other organs of speech to produce different kinds of sound. Finally, the mouth. You just imagine when you are producing E sound, the mouth is becoming flat. But when you are producing O sound, the mouth is becoming rounded. Is it at all possible to produce O sound with a flattened mouth? Never. Or is it possible to produce an E sound with a rounded mouth? Impossible. So the process by which air is getting modulated or transformed into speech sound with the help of various organs of speech, that process is called airstream mechanism, which is our next topic. So airstream mechanism, because why is it called air? Because that is the fundamental requirement. Stream, because it is flowing from the lungs. It starts its journey and it flows upward through the larynx, it enters the pharynx, then comes to the mouth and ultimately out of the mouth. So this entire journey of the air is like that of a stream. So this is called airstream, and it is the process by which this flow of air is getting changed into a speech sound. And this process is called airstream mechanism. Clear? Now, there are two categories based on which types of airstream mechanism can be divided. One category is called the initiator or the organs of speech that begins the airstream mechanism. Based on this, we have these three types: pulmonic, glottalic, and velaric. And another is called direction of flow, based on which we have two more types: ingressive and aggressive. Now I will just speak about the second two first before I get into these three. Depending upon the direction of flow, that means air can go either inside or it can come outside. So the direction of flow can be inward or outward. So when the air stream is pushed out from the body and it comes out of the mouth, that is called aggressive airstream mechanism. Aggressive. When the air comes out. And the other is just the reverse, when the air is drawn in. That is, the direction is inward. Such airstream mechanism is called ingressive airstream mechanism. Ingressive. So very easy to understand. Ingressive airstream mechanism is where the stream of air is drawn inside and the direction is inward. And aggressive airstream mechanism is when air is pushed out or the direction is outward. Now use your common sense and understand when we are speaking, which mechanism do we follow? Ingressive or aggressive? Human speech, remember students, always follow aggressive airstream mechanism, because when we are speaking, air is always pushed out. If you just hold your hands in front of your mouth as you speak, you will feel the air pressure coming out of the mouth. So when we speak, we always follow aggressive airstream mechanism. Whereas when we snore, that means when we are inhaling while sleeping by making sounds. There are some people who snore, naak dakha jake bole. So that is where ingressive airstream mechanism is followed, because air is drawn in, and during that process sound is produced. That is ingressive airstream mechanism. Now we will come to these three types, that is pulmonic, glottalic, and velaric. Now these three types are based on the organ which initiates the process. Pulmonic, you can understand, is coming from the Latin term pulmos. Pulmos means lungs. So pulmonic airstream mechanism is where lungs is the initiator. That means the air is pushed first from the lungs, then it comes to the trachea, then it goes upward through the opening, enters the pharynx. From the pharynx, it goes to the mouth, and from the mouth, it is coming out. So the beginner is, or the initiator is the wall of the lungs. So we will see the first, that is pulmonic airstream mechanism. So initiator is the wall of the lungs. Pulmonic, now each of these can be pulmonic aggressive or pulmonic ingressive. When we are speaking, we are using the air that is coming from the lungs. So remember students, all Indian languages, including English, they use this mechanism, pulmonic aggressive airstream. So airstream is used to push the air out. And from where this air is coming? From the walls of the lungs. Example, all sounds of English and most Indian languages. And pulmonic ingressive is where airstream is used to draw the air inside. For example, yawning or snoring. As I told you, when you yawn, you draw the air in. When you snore, you draw the air in, right? So pulmonic is where, remember, lung is the initiator. That can also be ingressive and aggressive. Next comes glottalic airstream mechanism. Glottalic means the glottis. You see the picture, the glottis is the opening between the vocal cords, the opening through which the air enters the pharynx from the lungs through the trachea. So from the lungs, when the air enters the trachea, it passes through an opening called glottis, and then it goes upwards. So this opening, which is between the vocal fold, is called glottis. And the airstream mechanism where the glottis acts as the initiator and the air in the pharynx is used is called glottalic airstream mechanism. Now remember, since the air which is in the pharynx is used to initiate the mechanism, glottalic airstream mechanism has also been referred to as pharyngeal airstream mechanism. So glottalic or pharyngeal. Pharyngeal because the air in the pharynx is used. And here again we have glottalic aggressive, where air is driven out, pushed out, and glottalic ingressive, where the air is drawn in. And the particular sound which is caused by glottalic air ingressive airstream mechanism is called implosive sound. Implosives. We will do that in a later class. And the only example that we have that uses glottalic ingressive airstream mechanism is the Sindhi language. If you know the language, you would understand. And next we come to the third category, that is velaric airstream mechanism. Now velaric comes from, again, the Latin term velum. Velum means the soft palate. Soft palate, if you use your tongue and touch the roof of your mouth just above, just behind the teeth of your upper jaw, you would see that first a region comes which is hard. If you touch the tongue just behind the teeth of the upper jaw, first is the hard palate. And if you draw the tongue backward, you would realize that there is another region just after the hard palate which is softer, which is called the soft palate. So this soft palate is called the velum. And when the soft palate is used to produce the speech sound, or that is the initiator, that is called velaric airstream mechanism. Now when we make click sound, this click sound is actually produced by the soft palate. And they are used in several African languages like Zulu, velaric ingressive. We are drawing the air in. And remember, velaric aggressive airstream mechanism is used nowhere. No language uses velaric aggressive airstream mechanism. Only, as it is, velaric airstream mechanism is used very less. And the velaric aggressive airstream mechanism is not used. Only velaric ingressive mechanism is used, that also in African languages like Zulu. These are the organs of speech. Now you see there are so many organs of speech which are involved when speech sounds are produced, starting from the lungs till the mouth and the nose. There are many nasal sounds also where the nose also plays an important role. So we will stop here today. I would upload the notes of airstream mechanism and its types. You go through, and till here, if you don't understand anything, contact me and we will clear your doubts. And in the next class, we will continue from the organs of speech. Thank you, students.